Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our live stream. Today we are talking about men and mental health, and men and the sort of the male gaze in our contemporary society. Men and mental health is a very important topic. As most of you know, 80% of suicide victims today are male. More and more men are trying to rediscover their identities, trying to find a sense of who they are, what it is that they want to accomplish in a world that is increasingly derogatory towards that kind of identity. And I think that we want to talk about masculinity and depression, and masculinity and suicide, because as both of us know, and hopefully everybody watching this video knows, 80% of people who kill themselves nowadays are male. You were saying last week, Lyndsey, that of a lot of the people you know that killed themselves, most of them or all of them were male. Yes. Do you want to talk a little bit about that without going into...
Yeah, I mean, before I even get into that, I was looking at a statistic earlier. Now it's from 2018. I didn't get around to seeing the updated, but in 2018 there was 12 male suicides in the UK every day. And what shocked me about that, whenever you think about it, that's one person every 2 hours. One man every 2 hours in the UK dies by suicide. That honestly shocked me to the core. I wouldn't have thought it was as high as that. And I actually can't get that out of my head, to be honest. But yeah, I was kind of looking back over anybody that I've known that has actually committed suicide, and every single person that's done it has been male. And it's mad to think that I do believe that men feel that they can't seek help more because it's so taboo, and I think that's an awful thing. And I want to be somebody who people can come to and talk to, and I want to be somebody that shouts for everyone. I'm not just here for women, I'm here for men as well. And you know, when we talk about the fact that, as you're saying, 80% of suicides are male, that's mad.
Do you, without wanting to ask you anything too sort of personal or kind of invade their privacy too much, do you have any sort of insight as to kind of why you think they may have done it, or what pressures were on them in particularly that may have led them to take their own lives?
I mean, when I look back to the first person I knew that did it, I honestly have no idea. He was the happiest person I knew, and like, this was a guy I went out with. He was my boyfriend, and I had no idea that these things were going on, and it really rocked me. I was 16 years old. It was the first, it was the first proper close death that I had really experienced, never mind it actually being a suicide. But I had no idea. I had no clue what was going on behind closed doors, because he kept everything so quiet, didn't talk about anything. But when you look back, for me, most of the people I know that have done it have all been like the clown of the group. They've been the ones who put on that brave face and be the centre of attention, and kind of they hide behind a mask. So him, no, can't tell you anything. The second one, he became an alcoholic and got himself into a lot of trouble and hated himself for it. Couldn't see a way out, couldn't see a way past everything that he had done and how much he'd ruined his own life. And he was determined. He told us on a regular basis that he was going to do it no matter what. He tried on many, many occasions, and he said there's no point in trying to help him, because he was determined. He didn't want to be alive anymore. And the other one, again, he didn't really let anybody see what was going on, what was happening behind closed doors. He kind of hid behind that.
You mentioned there about trouble. Men are more likely to commit crimes fall in with the wrong crowd, get in with kind of men are more likely to be living on the streets. Men are more likely, significantly more likely to kind of be the victim of violent crime. Men are more likely. So this is kind of all falls into the issue with men and suicide. There is a big problem with men and falling into bad habits or falling into criminality. Do you think that contributed to the second guy that you knew?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to use his name because I'm going to end up slipping up anyway. With John, it's a long, massive, mad story, but he was actually on holiday and his drink was spiked, and whatever happened, his family thought he'd had a mental breakdown while they were on holiday and took him to a doctor who gave him Zyprexa, which, because he didn't actually need it, it kind of sent him a bit doolally, and he made a mistake. And I won't elaborate more than that because it's not my story, and people that were affected by it are still living. But he did something that wasn't even that extreme, but ended up being on the sex offenders register. Actually need to elaborate, because saying that, people are going to be like, well, if he did something. He, at a party, was joking about with his girlfriend and grabbed her by the bum and boob in front of people, and she had him arrested for rape.
Okay, yeah, that's something that...
Right. So by the stage the court case went ahead, I had met John. I didn't know him during that time. I had met him after that, and he told us, he started dating my friend, and John and I quickly became very, very close. But he was going through the court case, and we were there for him right throughout. But at the start of that court case, she was adamant that he had raped her. By the end of it, he was getting done with assault for grabbing her bum and her boob, and he was put on the sex offenders register in his early 20s, literally 20, for 10 years. By that stage, he was planning to get engaged to my friend who had a child. They had to put their whole life on hold because they couldn't live together because he was on the sex offenders register. And he started drinking because he was so upset. He made that mistake by thinking he was playing about with his girlfriend. Yes, if she didn't want it, but she was laughing along with him at the time. But they had an argument later on, and she had him arrested. Mm-hmm. So it kind of went from there. He ended up in prison for getting involved with paramilitaries and just continued drinking and drinking and drinking. Even while he was in prison, he tried to kill himself repeatedly and was adamant, told everybody no matter what. But as you're saying, yes, with the whole getting into trouble stuff, it was a dramatic decline from there.
Yes. This kind of touches on a touchy subject, which we're going to be talking about at some stage over the course of this live stream, which is the Me Too era and the kind of oversensitization of kind of rape accusations, which is, there seems to be a contemporary culture of, I need to use my words so delicately here because I don't want to underplay real rape victims, because real rape victims are real rape victims and they have my sympathy, but some women file false or snowflakey accusations of rape, and yes, this is, not only are men more likely to commit crimes, but there are certain crimes that are only crimes for men. So if a woman were to do the same thing, very, very often, when it comes to assault, for example, if a woman commits an assault, she might get 2 or 3 days in prison, whereas if a man commits the same assault, he'll get 6 months in prison. Men are obviously stronger than women, and there's an element of that is justified. But with rape accusations, there's a massive grey area with legitimate accusations of rape and a new climate of you know, not false accusations of rape, but kind of just snowflakey accusations of rape. And these accusations can absolutely destroy men. What are your thoughts on...
Yeah, I do think that there seems to be a lot more coming out that were fake, and it was just somebody was pissed off with people. I mean, I was years ago on jury service. There was a court case where a man was getting accused of rape, and it turned out that his wife had fabricated all of this because they were getting divorced and she wanted custody of their children. So she made all of this up, you know, and I'm not saying, I definitely think that the majority of the cases are real, but I do see a lot more that aren't real. And
as somebody who has sympathy for real rape victims, these fabricated accusations of rape and sexual assault are undermining the are against female interest, because real rape victims need to come across, and if there are a litany of kind of false or snowflakey accusations of rape, that means that people are less likely to be believed when they are actually real rape victims. So it's kind of the opposite. These people are the opposite of feminist. These people are, you know, not doing the female cause any good, and should be kind of shunned by both men and women alike, because it's kind of vindictive in a lot of ways to bring forward these kind of snowflakey accusations of rape. There's a certain amount of, you know, I need to be so careful on how I word this, but 20 years ago, women knew that there was a certain amount of boys will be boys when it came to kind of what am I trying to say here? Like a certain amount of kind of give and take with men when it came to kind of flirtation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what you were saying about your friend and touching her bum and touching her boob, that was about being playful. Yeah. Nowadays that, yes, there are some women, and I'm talking 10% of women or 15% of women, who would not consider that to be playful. Yeah, I'm not trying to defend men who do it.
If you were in a relationship with somebody that you would know your partner enough. Like if my husband grabbed me by the boob, I would just laugh, slap his arm and go, alright, why's that? Because I know him, he knows me. You would assume that you would know the person that you're with enough to know whether they'd enjoy the banter of that or not. I think that could be a topic that could get a lot of hate no matter what way we talk about that.
Yes, so...
I think it's a difficult one, but it does... I mean, it was a massive thing for John and ultimately cost him his life. I mean, somebody who had his whole life ahead of him and had a lot to live for. You know, he had a stepson, he had a future bride, and because, like, I could talk all day about it because it's something that's really angered me all these years, that rather than her getting done for wasting police time, he was put on the sex offenders register, you know. But here we are 16 years later, and a lot of lives have been affected by that. His family, Sandra especially, you know, it's something that haunts me all the time, thinking, could I have done more? You know, and I think that's something that's really hard for people who are the ones left behind from suicide. You do constantly think, could I have done more? Should I have been there for that person more? What could I have done differently? And it's a difficult one.
Yeah, it is a difficult one.